Hi, I'm Judy Lee. In this series, my friend Mike Kim and I talk with professionals in various industries about their own experiences so that recent university graduates like us and those of you watching can get a better idea of what's out there as we prepare to enter the workforce. In this episode, I'll be speaking with Chris Exline, founder and CEO of Home Essentials, a furniture leasing company that has locations around the world. Chris was a real estate broker in the United States with a very lucrative business before an epiphany he had while in Singapore led to his moving to Asia to start a brand new company. We will be talking about what it's like to relocate halfway across the world to start business from scratch and the challenges entrepreneurs might face when trying to build their own business. I hope this helps. So, thank you very much, Chris, for joining us to the interview today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So my first question is, before you have built Home Essentials, you had a business in the United States. How did you get to start that company?
Well, it's a great question. I was in the commercial real estate business, and basically just started out as a real estate broker for shopping center space. And as I started to work hard and go through all of that, then that business grew, and other retailers asked me, we have a need in Columbus, Ohio, or we have a need in Kansas City. Can you help us find locations there? And just from, like all other types of businesses, from, happy customers grows happy customers, and that business grew. But I'd never really left the United States. Maybe I'd been to Mexico a few times or Canada. But it wasn't until friends of mine were expatriates in Singapore that I went and got a passport. And I had a 1-week-old passport, and I boarded the flight and flew to Singapore for my very first vacation and trip overseas.
And how did that come about to building Home Essentials?
It's a lot of times I subscribe to the theory that when you go through life, you should try to look at connecting the dots. Okay. Try to look at why is this here? Not just like, oh, lines of immigration are long, or why do the horns honk in Hong Kong? But what is it about this time, this space that makes the horns honk?
Okay.
Why are people actually queuing in a line at immigration? Why do they want to go there? And I probably that's some of my makeup, but other part of it is just I loved studying history, and the study of history is wonderful because you're not just memorizing a date. It's not October 1st, 1949. It's not July 4th, 1776. It's not September 1st, 1939, the start of World War II. It's basically what are the events that made that date historical. And so when you think that way, when I went to Singapore, we were sitting at a restaurant having dinner the second night I was there. And so they just said, yeah, it's getting to be tax time and we have to report all this stuff in tax. And I said, well, what do you mean? And they go, well, we had to buy all of these televisions, and back then VCRs, which for your audience are things that had these horrifically large tapes that you stuffed in there. But and said, yeah, that $5,000 we have to declare as income and pay tax on it. And I just woke up. I said, well, why wouldn't you just rent a television set? The voltage is different. You can't take it back to the U.S. and you can't use it. And they go, well, you just don't. I said, well, why? Well, you just don't. I came to find out there was no place in Singapore for an expatriate to rent a TV set. So the entire, I was only there for 3 days. So the third day of my vacation, we went out and doing all this due diligence to see what else was there.
Okay.
And it was one of those surreal times for the entire 27 hours of the flight back. I remember the movies. I remember the flight attendants. I remember the hue of the aircraft. I remember the music that was on there. I remember everything about it. I couldn't get the idea out of my head.
Okay.
I just had this one of these things, alignment. The right idea at the right time. I figured that somehow a furniture rental company in Singapore could work, and that there was I was addressing an unmet need.
Somehow, was that like a gut feeling that you had?
It was a gut feeling.
Okay.
It was a gut feeling, but the commercial real estate business I was doing in the United States, a lot of it was for the furniture rental industry.
Okay.
So I was already trained at looking, what type of market dynamics, will facilitate a successful furniture rental store versus an underperforming one. I was working with owner-operators in cities across the entire United States on furniture rental. So I went in there thinking, of a furniture rental mindset. You go into a new city, it's like, is there furniture rental? Just because that's what I do for a living, 12, 14 hours a day. So I wasn't the first furniture rental guy to visit Singapore, and I wasn't the first person in Singapore to think about furniture rental, but I was the first one that went in there and tried to make something happen.
Do entrepreneurs by nature have this risk-taking personality?
No, I don't believe that entrepreneurs are risk takers. I believe that entrepreneurs have somewhat of an unbridled confidence and an unjustified confidence in their concept, which is tragic. Entrepreneurs chronically underestimate their funding requirements, which is even more tragic.
Okay.
But I don't believe that entrepreneurs perceive their actions or initiatives as risky. They believe so much in the concept that they know it's going to work. Now, often it doesn't. I mean, I think that if you look at the statistics, only 1% of all entrepreneurial endeavors actually survive more than 10 years.
Yes.
So obviously the success rate is so shockingly low. That would tell the stories.
What sort of expectations should aspiring entrepreneurs have when they're preparing their business, preparing to launch their business?
First off, make sure that it works. Okay. First off, does the market need your product? Does the market want your product? Also, I would encourage every single entrepreneur that seeks me out or wants to talk. The first thing is, have you read about the 5 competitive forces that shape strategy?
Okay.
The seminal work of Michael Porter. And if you don't know how your business fits within the 5 competitive forces that shape strategy, don't do it. Because there are so many things, and business moves so quickly these days. What are the barriers to entry? What are the competitive strengths that you have? What's going to stop somebody from copying your business? What are substitutes? What are new entrants? And I'm throwing out, this isn't a plug for business school, but what it is it is a critical way of analyzing and testing your idea. Do you have adequate cash? The question is probably no. And what's stopping other people from replicating your business, and how can you go global? Because the days of starting a neat niche business in Seoul or Hong Kong or suburban Chicago, those days, is the minute you've got a viable idea, you need to figure out how you're going to go global. And at that point, the overarching element of expertise that one must acquire is leadership.
Okay.
How can you effectively communicate an idea, a vision, a business plan to multiple constituencies at the same time so that they can all rally around the same cause? That is extraordinarily complex, and I dare say it's probably one of the most difficult traits for people to acquire.
How did you acquire that? I mean, I'm aware that you went to business school. I mean, would you say that it's necessary to pursue higher education?
No, I think leadership is not something that's taught in a textbook. And while business school gives you an incredible way of thinking about the interaction between, say, like marketing and control and finance and negotiation, leadership, innovation, all those things together, it really doesn't prepare you for responding to real world realities. And what happened to us is that at a couple times this business has almost collapsed, and we've been technically insolvent a couple times. And when you start an industry and you actually change the way a place does business, and you see that going away from you, that gets you to your core, the core of who you actually are. And when it happened to me, it ripped me at the core of who I was. And you actually go to that thing that you hold the most strongly to. And for me, it's my faith. I really love my faith. I have a deep appreciation and 100% assurance of the belief system to which I subscribe.
Yeah.
And so, and I tell people, whether or not you subscribe to Jesus is up to you. But he had for those 3 years, had a pretty lasting impact.
He did.
So his leadership skills are leadership skills that I thought I should look at.
Okay.
And I identified 5. You want me to go through those? Or?
Sure.
Yeah? Okay.
Sure.
Well,
Why not?
the first one is, and I found that these have universal applicability across, Africa, Arabia, Asia, America, Europe. First of all, do you have care and compassion? Do you truly care about your people? Not just when things are bad. and people expect for you to carry them because you need them, but when times are good. The second thing is, are you accessible? Do people really know about you? And not this, just silly thing that happens in the United States, like, Judy, I just want you to know that door is always open. You come in anytime you want and share your thoughts with me because I want to hear them. Okay? Well, that's ridiculous, and nobody believes it except the person saying it. But people that work for me, they know about my divorce. They know about the insolvency because they know my eccentricities. Like I love listening to Andy Williams music, because they know the eccentric character traits I have already. So to try to mask them over, regardless of the cufflinks, the ties, and the degrees, really doesn't matter. But what I found is when they do know more about me, it makes me more human and allows them to be more human.
Personal relationship.
It's a personal relationship. It's not like we go out and karaoke, which I've been here 16 years. I've done one time. It's not that we go out and buddy all the time. I mean, there is a strict division of responsibility.
Right.
We all have jobs to do.
Yes.
But I think it's more important to actually know them on a personal level.
Yeah.
Know about their children. Know about their relationships. Know about their dreams and aspirations. And not only am I proud of the fact that we've had probably 20 children have life-changing operations around the world, but we've also enabled many of our staff to go in and start businesses for themselves. The third thing is, do you lead by example? Which in Asia is a very difficult concept.
Okay.
It's not. I don't subscribe to I'm the head, you're the hands. It's basically there's a customer on the floor. Need to wait on the customer. A delivery. I'll get in the truck and do a delivery. We'll take the customer calls. And leading by example is also important because this whole issue of saving face. It's not saving my face that's important. It's about standing up for your staff. The fourth thing that I learned was, and this is the most difficult, and I give a lot of talks to MBA students, and I teach an MBA class, and I used to ask people this question, but then it got to be a little difficult. So I just throw it out there and let them think about it. But do you have a set of core values that you do and can clearly articulate?
Okay.
Do people know who you are, what you will do, what you will not do, and what you stand for? And tragically, you'll be amazed how many entrepreneurs or business leaders can't really say that. They may have a company mission statement, and they may want to draw upon the rich diversity of their workforce for whatever reason, or subscribe to delivering quality products to their customers, which is everything. But do you have a set of core values that you clearly articulate, that are widely known, and that you live by?
Okay.
And the fifth thing, sorry for going on for so long, but do you have a faith?
Okay.
Do you have a faith that is so strong that you're willing to figuratively die for it?
Okay.
Because every entrepreneur, every business, basically, is going to reach crisis. At some point, how do you manage crisis? And if you are, now some businesses need to just go away, and that is an honest conversation that you have with people. But do you have a faith that says, these are tough times, but we're going to make it because of this? And that tests the trust within the organization. So those are the 5 leadership characteristics that have enabled us to basically replicate our model, change it, and go global.
Can you maybe share some of the difficulties that you face when starting a new business in a foreign country?
Oh, we don't have time. It's legion. The capital requirements, understanding local culture, making sure that you've tweaked your model to a certain degree to be in alignment with that market, but not to such a degree that it's out of alignment with the company. All right? If you look at how many successful Korean retailers are in Hong Kong, probably 0.
Okay.
How many successful Hong Kong retailers are in Korea? Maybe Giordano.
Okay.
Maybe Bassini. I don't know, not too many others. How many successful Singaporean companies are here and vice versa? It's quite difficult. So even cultural nuances are difficult to actually grasp.
Right.
Until you get to a scale of, say, a Zara, a Uniqlo, fast retail, or IKEA, But then they actually define their own markets and have their own cult following. Those really aren't entrepreneurial. I mean, obviously, Fast Retail and Zara are entrepreneurial. IKEA started as an entrepreneurial organization. But how do you get to that scale? And once you learn it, can you afford to do it? Most entrepreneurs will run out of cash, and if they try to seek private equity, they probably won't get a valuation that they believe is fair, and one that allows them to see their dream through to completion.
Have you gone through like failures or rejections?
Well, I go through rejection every day.
Every day. How do you overcome that? I mean, what is that one thing that pushes you to overcome any failures?
Well, I think you have to evaluate what is failure. Okay. What is a daily failure? Failure to deliver to a customer on time. A failure to win a customer that goes to a competitor. Failure to communicate effectively expectations with staff that lead to, say, a termination or lead to a reassessment of their future with your company. So those are failures. Failures in my personal life, my failure with my marriage. Failure with financial decisions. So those are failures. But then if you get to the seismic or catastrophic failure, which is something that affects the franchise, the whole business, how do you deal with that? How do you rebuild?
Right.
And rebuilding, I tell people, surviving a typhoon or a hurricane is one thing. The hard work is rebuilding. Okay. And that is always a much longer process than most people anticipate. And it can be very unrewarding. Customers will turn. Customers have choice. Any customer that's got dollars, RMB, won, they've got choice. And if you fail to deliver on that repeatedly, other people are going to be competing for that currency.
Okay. So what would be your suggestion to entrepreneurs who are going through that struggle?
Well, one, make sure that you know your gross margins.
Okay.
Life's too short to be in a low gross margin business.
Okay.
Two, make sure that you're relevant.
Okay.
And one of the questions that was always asked of us in school is, will the world care if you leave? The first, in all strategy classes, the first question, last question, does the world care? Will the world miss you? The sad thing is the world doesn't miss Kodak. Okay? And the world would not miss home essentials. Life will go on.
Okay.
The entrepreneur doesn't necessarily believe that, but life will go on. You've got to make sure that your business model is viable. And you've got to make sure that you know exactly who your customer base is and where the next customer base is. So how do you, if you've got a failure, you have a failure because you've abandoned your customers or your customers have abandoned you. That's it. Either you've abandoned your customers by going off into tangential business lines or product lines that they don't want, or you've priced yourself out of the market, or your customers have abandoned you because of some form of substitute offering from a competitor or a new entrant. So if you look at, say, like Kodak, Kodak's customers abandoned them because they all went to digital camera. Kodak invented the digital camera, but couldn't get away from film. Blockbuster Video went out, because of online streaming. So customers found alternative outlets. JCPenney said to their customers, and this is a U.S. large chain retailer, we don't like you as customers, we're going to get other customers. These customers said, that's fine, and JCPenney is going out. So, you've got to make sure that you're still relevant to existing customers and bring them along as you try to access new customers. In the same time, you've got to preserve cash so that you don't go out of business and you hold your gross margins.
I see. What sets an entrepreneur apart from a corporate employee?
I don't know. I mean, every time I give an interview everybody asks that.
Okay.
And I don't have an answer.
You don't have an answer?
I don't have an answer. I mean, there's a lot of times I wake up in the morning and wish that I was a corporate employee.
Why do you think that? That's the difference.
Tautong, Malfan. Life could be a lot easier. Life doesn't have to always be such a struggle. I mean, I love the company. I love what we've done. I loved our pioneering spirit.
Okay.
But it's tough. It's difficult.
It's tough.
And when you've stared into the abyss, and you've been on the brink of insolvency more than once, And at my age, how many more times do I want to reinvent this? So just punching in at 9, leaving at 5:30, making sure I get my holidays. Of course, it's appealing. Have I done it? I probably couldn't get hired, so I haven't even put myself for that rejection, as you said. But no, I think what sets an entrepreneur different is probably hope. It would be the hope for relevance, but it's a hope and relevance that is in some ways what I would say worldly based and not extremely healthy. It's healthy in that it drives you to stay on because you want your dream to survive.
Okay.
But it basically addresses the exact same fundamental question that every single person wrestles with. Does my life count?
Okay.
Is my life going to amount to something? What will people say about me?
Okay.
And not to really bring this back to my belief system, but in my belief system, that is also a core. I've been given X amount of days. I don't know how many it is. I hope it's a lot. And when this phase is over, what will I show for it? What will be the difference? And in the worldly dimensions that we live in here, I mean, for the entrepreneur, it's like, I want to do something that's significant. I want to do something that people that's going to change the world. I want to do something that is going to make a difference and an impact on people's lives. I mean, you see that in the healthcare profession. People become doctors and nurses because they have a direct impact on saving people's lives. You see that in people that are driving innovation, or some people that are in charitable organizations or leading research in vaccines and things like that. So I think that's probably the difference. Hope.
Hope. What kind of person are you looking for when you are looking to hire employees or even looking for potential partners? In terms of like their quality that they have, or their mentality.
Let's talk with staff. I think partners are more of a strategic, logistical type thing that is really difficult to quantify.
Employees. Who are you looking for to hire?
I would say that for teammates is what we call them. We don't really call them staff or employees, but for teammates, we're looking for people teammates that will engage.
Okay.
Because I can tell you this, I'm an old man, but retail is moving so fast that the only way to remain relevant is to create an experience. You have to have an experience to bring people back. Now, I do believe that furniture is one of the last bastions of retail that'll stand before everything goes to the internet, because people still want to touch the fabric, they want to sit on the sofa, they want to lie down on the mattress, they want to see the dimensions of the dining table or the dining chair before they buy it. But within 10 years, you'll be able to sit at your desk and have tactile functions that you can feel things on the internet. Imagine if with 3D printing and some of these other things, I could, because we're the #1 seller of scented candles in Hong Kong now.
Okay.
Imagine if you said ginger peach. I wonder what that smells like. And you could mouse over ginger peach, and you could create that smell. That's exciting.
That's exciting.
That's awesome. I've been dreaming about tactile internet for years.
Okay.
And if people, half the deal is if they could feel this fabric, that would, I can't quantify it, but I do firmly believe that it would increase the proportion of sales that we would get because we're able to capture that experience with them sooner.
That's very exciting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
What roles do interpersonal skills play in being an entrepreneur? And creating and maintaining a new business, basically.
I don't think very much.
Interpersonal skills.
I really
constantly with people.
Yeah, this may shock you. I really don't like people. I love the people I work with. Well, I like being alone.
Okay.
It's widely known. I really don't circulate. I don't do very much.
You would consider yourself an introvert?
People that see me can't believe it.
Okay.
Because I'm outspoken. I can articulate thoughts. I don't have a fear of public speaking. I don't have much of a fear dealing with journalists, but a little bit. And I can do it. But the minute that it's done, I prefer to just go back and be by myself. So I think that there's a difference between your question in interpersonal skills and an ability to communicate.
Okay.
Okay? I don't socialize with anybody.
Okay.
Okay? Probably part of the reason why my marriage had some problems. But, it's also, I don't have to be everybody's best friend.
Okay.
I don't have to be anybody's friend.
Okay.
But because I care about them, you can deeply care about people.
Yes.
And have compassion for them.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that you have to be their friend.
Okay.
Yeah, and friend being, hey, what are you doing? It's Saturday morning. You want to go play football or tennis or something like that. I never do anything like that. I never go out to dinner with anybody. Just hate doing that. My dining table at home has one chair, which is for people that come over is a very strong message. I mean, if you think about it, there's a dining
Tells
table.
a lot.
I love visual statements.
Yes.
And there's nothing I love more. It actually makes me laugh.
Oh my goodness.
A dining table with one chair.
One chair.
It just says it all. People
Bam.
Bam, yeah. You made it to the door. Great. Not many people do. And there's one chair. Yeah. It's just, I love it. Absolutely love it. So interpersonal skills, a lot of people don't have them. And to sit there and say that that's a prerequisite for jump-starting your idea, I think condemns a lot of people to failure.
Okay.
I don't have interpersonal skills.
Okay.
But I can articulate a message. I can tell people exactly who we are, what we stand for, where we're going, why it's relevant, why it matters, and why it must be done right now.
So you're a good communicator.
But you don't have to be a great public speaker. I mean, I don't preach this message to 10,000 people at a time. You have to be able to clearly articulate what you want to do to people on a one-on-one or a department-wide basis. You have to be able to tell why your idea, business, concept is relevant and will remain relevant.
Okay.
All right? So communication is vital. Interpersonal skills, not so much. I know it's a nuance, but I think
it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that. I can tell the difference. Right.
And I would also say that there has to be a realization that no matter how deeply convicted you are in the integrity or the honor or the purpose of your purpose, that won't be shared by everybody else. And it's absolutely naive to think that everybody's going to have the same passion for the idea and concept as you have.
I see. What sort of advice do you have for aspiring entrepreneurs, and
Cash.
what do you think is the most important thing that they can do right now to prepare?
Cash.
Can you elaborate?
Cash. Yeah, you have to have a model that makes economic sense.
Okay.
Okay? Now, you don't have to wait and save up a bunch of cash, but my golly, you had better understand who is your customer, why are they going to come to you, and do they have a willingness to pay for your service? You're going to make mistakes. Do you have a gross margin that's sufficient to enable you to withstand certain setbacks or blows?
How did you get your first, how did you start off in that sense? Like your first investment, like your first bucket of gold, I guess? Like,
Well,
does that make sense?
I don't like the term buckets of gold,
Yeah,
but what I do like is, what is it? Luck is preparation meeting opportunity.
Okay.
So I'd been saving up.
Oh, you've been saving up.
And I had a very good career in the United States. So
Okay,
I made a good level of income in the United States, so that when I saw this opportunity in Singapore, I actually had sufficient money to kind of get it started.
I see.
And so, yeah.
So you talked about your 5 values, right? And
Well, no, not my 5 values. They're 5 values that I gleaned from my faith for what I believe are concepts for leadership.
And your fourth leadership point was
the first one was care and compassion.
right.
The second one was accessibility. Can people access you? The third one was lead by example.
Right.
The fourth one was that one I've repeated a couple times. Do you have a set of core values?
Right.
Core values that you can and often clearly articulate. and the fifth one was faith.
So, can you tell me your core values that you can you articulate them now? I just want to know what kind of values you have in terms of your business, and
Okay.
also also your overall mission in life.
Well, okay, all right. It's a big question.
Yes.
Our core values
Yeah.
are basically letting all of our people know what we will and what we will not do, and we have dealt in some rather complicated markets that are widely known for business practices that are inconsistent with my belief system and with the rule of law in Western Europe and North America and other places like Hong Kong and stuff like that. And so we've never, ever paid an inducement to anybody. Sudan, Iraq, India, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Middle East, anywhere. And I'm not just singling those out, I'm just saying anywhere. And at one point, we were in one of the countries, and I don't want to name it because I don't want to condemn a place like that. But we had some initial success, and we had a lot of business. And then we were coming in second, coming in third on tenders and stuff like that. And I was meeting with, we had 3 vice presidents in the country at the time, and I was meeting with one of them, or all 3 of them, and they said, Chris, unless you're willing to pay the inducements, we're just not going to be able to do it. And I said, blank, Scott, the minute I do, first off, I have a belief system that $1 million could come through this door if it was willed or ordained. So I'm not going to sit there and tell everybody widely that I have this belief system, and then all of a sudden say, oh, but when I'm going to have this belief system. And I said I would rather shut the business down than lose my moral authority to lead.
Okay.
All right. And in that one country, I wrote the business down. I took a personal hit of over $1 million because if I was to succumb to the local practice, in total contradiction to my own personal belief system and what I had told everybody, it's a company, at that point it was a company of over 700 people. That my faith, my belief system, all of this is widely known, and then all of a sudden I said, well, I'm going to do something different because the business, then I perceived that I would have lost my moral authority to lead the company.
Okay.
And that would have been a total compromise of everything I believe in and everything I had told everybody I believe in.
Okay.
So that is, it's a long answer to what is a core value.
Okay.
But I hope that explains it somewhat.
It does.
Okay.
It does. I see. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us, and also for your generous insight.
No, I appreciate it. You've got a very engaging personality, and so I think it's going to be quite exciting to see how it goes. And, and again, if people do write you with certain questions, I would love to field some of those questions. Because I think it's important that entrepreneurs learn from the experience of other entrepreneurs. So, please feel free, if people do contact you, that you can provide them with my email, and I would love to be able to communicate with them about that later on.
Right. Oh, wow. Thank you very much for
Our pleasure.
that. Thank you.
All right.